How's it going, guys? Randall aka Shizakats here on the Tressa's Collectibles channel, and we're back with another installment of TD++. In this series, we'll show you how to get the most mileage out of a single trial deck, and introduce new cards from lower rarities in the booster box that will allow you to quickly enhance the TD strategies while still staying on a budget. Some of the recent trial decks we've looked at on the channel, such as Licorice Recoil, Spy Family, and Guilty Gear Strive, have been loaded with powerful cards, providing a fantastic basis on which to build a TD++. Unfortunately, I would not say that Bocchi's trial deck is the same case. It doesn't even have a second climax combo to work with, and it arguably doesn't even have a card that it can really call a finisher. Lacking that second climax combo, our climax slots are occupied by 2 different +2 souls? On top of all that, our level 0 lineup lacks any of the standard utility cards that you commonly see in optimized builds, such as drop searchers or drop salvagers. In order to remedy these issues, the three of us on the Tressa's team have put together a build that's basically a complete overhaul of the trial deck. As such, we won't be doing a step-by-step process as we usually do on TD++, and instead we'll just be showing you guys the new deck up front and detailing how it works and our thought process on the inclusions. Before we get into the full list though, there are a few cards in the trial deck that are noteworthy inclusions in our final build, so let's take a look at those first. The best card in the trial deck, hands down, is the level 1 Bocchi combo, which thankfully, the trial deck comes with 4 copies of, as well as 4 copies of her climax. She gains power when placed on stage from hand based on the number of characters you have on stage, including herself as she enters, which means that she can gain up to 2500 power if played last. Her climax combo is fairly standard, yet still very effective. On attack, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck and add a music character from among them to your hand while sending the others to waiting room. This combo gives you flexible mill and allows you to speed through your deck if you find yourself out of climaxes left to cancel with. The selectivity isn't optimal since you only get your pick of the top 4, so we'll want to include options for selectivity elsewhere in the deck. Our main brainstorm is going to be the Nijika from the trial deck, which is a draw brainstorm 5 that also lets you give a 1500 pump when you play a yellow climax. Unfortunately, the best brainstorm in the set, by far, is a double R, which we try not to use on TD++, and all of the other brainstorms in the set are, well, they're not very good. If you can get some copies of the double R Nijika brainstorm from some packs or maybe a box or two, you should definitely include those in your deck over copies of the trial deck brainstorm, but for now, we're going to stick with these. Similar to the level 1 Bocchi combo, this brainstorm lacks selectivity, but we are able to potentially get climaxes or events off of the draw, which is an upside that we'll definitely want to take advantage of in this list. 2 more level 0s we'll be keeping from the trial deck are the level 0 Kita and level 0 Bocchi, at 2 copies apiece. These cards will give us a bit more potential access to climaxes and events respectively through their abilities, while also milling the deck a bit. This early mill can be important for getting cards with soul triggers into our waiting room so that our choice triggers become online. We do have one last inclusion from the trial deck, that being the level 3 Bocchi, but we'll come back to that later on in the video. For now, let's take a look at the cards from the booster set that we'll be adding. Let's start with the second climax combo. We're including Can't Tell You Nijika Ijichi as our top end. Her climax combo is a pseudo restand effect. At the end of her attack, you can pay 3 stock, discard 2 cards, and send herself to memory in order to choose a character from your waiting room and summon it onto the stage. The summoned character comes in standing and can attack as well, so the idea is that you chain a bunch of copies of Nijika, one after the other, to attack again and again. Her on-play ability, Draw 2 Ditch 2 Blindstock 1, works when played from hand or when summoned by her own climax combo, allowing you to gain a lot of extra stock and making the full combo much easier to pull off. Nijika's climax is Choice, which goes well alongside our Bocchi Choice climax for using effects like the Nijika Brainstorm's 1500 power pump. Additionally, the Choice trigger will help us maintain resources, with the Choice to gain a stock or a card in hand each time we trigger one. Because the Nijika finisher is relatively stock light, a majority of the time we will want to add cards to our hand rather than send cards to stock. Next, let's look at the 0 line. One of the best level 0 options available for budget decks is Nijika Summer Vacation Nijika Ijichi. This is a pretty strong early game card, able to be played as a turn 1 play or as a follow-up. Playing her turn 1 as a center runner can be appealing, but with only 2k power, she could be defeated relatively easily. So if you can help it, I would recommend playing a different level 0 on turn 1 so that you can follow up with Nijika afterwards for the guaranteed targeted +1. Try to open with the TD Kita or Bocchi so that you can use their effects to mill targets into the waiting room that you can salvage off of Nijika's effect or grab off a triggered choice climax. The other additions to this level 0 line are all utility pieces. First up, we have 2 copies of the Nijika Drop Search, which works both on play and on death, giving you extra selectivity and more access to your level 1 combo. Additionally, we have 1 copy of this green Nijika level 0, which lets you take a -1 in order to secure a specific character from your deck. Lastly, we have 1 copy of the Climax Swap Bocchi. Climax Swap is a very important profile that you will want to have in basically any deck, and this one is no exception. At level 1, we've included 2 of this Kita level 1 to go alongside our Bocchi combo. Her effect lets her sacrifice herself to bounce back a Bocchi that's being front attacked, allowing you to reuse the Bocchi level 1 combo on follow-up turns. This makes up a bit for the lack of selectivity in the deck, letting us reuse cards by bouncing them back, rather than having to get them back from the waiting room. Additionally, we have 1 copy of the level 1 Anti-Change Stock Bomb Bocchi for removal, and a single copy of the level 1 Seika as a back row tech option. She gives extra power to all of our Bocchis and Nijikas during our turn, and has an assignable stock removal effect that can be very powerful in certain matchups. We're also running 4 copies of the Extrovert event. This event mills 2 cards from our own deck, adds up the level of the 2 milled cards, and then lets us salvage a character whose level is equal or lower than the sum. This gives us some much needed selectivity that the deck otherwise lacks. By using cards like our Nijika Brainstorm and TD Bocchi level 0, we have increased ways to get this event into our hand and convert it into the precise cards we need. At level 2, we've included 2 copies of Attention-Seeking Monster Hitori Goto, aka Dino Bocchi, alongside 1 copy of the What? Hitori Goto Anti-Change Backup. These cards are included in the list to address decks that want to bring out their level 3 characters while still at level 2, such as Kanata in Hololive. We're also running some early plays ourselves, with 3 copies of Steeped White Hitori Goto. She can be played at level 2 if we have 2 or less climaxes in our waiting room, and she heals on play. In order to keep this deck simpler, we've decided to omit her choice climax from the list, and are just using her as an early play healer. However, if you want to make use of her combo in the mid-game and make the deck a little bit more advanced, try running a climax lineup of 4-2-2, with 2 copies of Melancholic Scream at the Future, instead of 2 copies of the Nijika Finisher Climax. The last few cards in the list are pieces for our finisher line. The TD level 3 Bocchi is intended to be the last attack after we've gone through all of our Nijikas. She can use her on-attack ability of pay 1 to stack a card from the opponent's waiting room on top of their deck, in order to make her attack easier to land. Apart from that, she can also serve as an extra healer in a pinch, but just remember that she does not proc her heal when summoned off of Nijika's Climax combo. Finally, the level 2 Bocchi and Event are decompression tools that can mess with our opponent's deck state and increase the likelihood that our attacks will land. We're running just 1 of the Bocchi but 2 of the Stock Swap Event, since events are typically harder to find. The deck follows a fairly straightforward game plan that mirrors many popular decks over the last several years. Your goal at level 0 is to try to build up towards a strong level 1 combo turn by collecting as many level 1 Hitori combos as possible. This can mainly be achieved through a combination of the Nijika Runner and Nijika Drop Search, with the Extrovert event as some extra help. When using the Hitori level 1 combo, assess how many climaxes you have in your deck. If you have a lot of climaxes remaining, you might not want to go through as many cards in order to keep those climaxes in your deck for canceling. However, if you're all out of climaxes, go through as many cards as needed to get to a refresh. Typically, players will try to reach their first deck refresh before hitting level 2. Additionally, use the Kita level 1 to get the combo back into your hand to reuse again next turn if needed. At level 2, you can play your Hitori early play heal to stabilize in damage, but otherwise, you should continue trying to use the level 1 Hitori combo to maintain hand size. This deck's endgame doesn't require very many specific cards in hand, but it does require a lot of cards in hand to discard, so you'll want to add cards to hand when you trigger choice climaxes, unless you're going to hit the max hand size limit. At level 3, you really only need 2 cards in your hand, Nijika level 3 and her climax. However, her combo only allows you to summon whatever's in your waiting room, so it can be smart to hold onto extra copies of the Nijika level 3 to ensure that they will end up in the waiting room once you discard them for cost. use the Nijikas to attack over and over again and end the game, using the level 2 Bocchi and event to make attacks easier to land if necessary. In order to go through all of the Nijikas in a single turn, you actually only need to start your turn with a measly 4 stock, but you need a pretty massive 8 additional hand to use for discards, so try to use your stock liberally on things like brainstorms to keep your hand size topped up. This is where the RR Nijika Brainstorm from the booster set can be a gigantic help, since it increases your hand size limit from 7 to 8, or even higher if you have multiple copies on stage at one time. Also, as one final tip, be sure to watch out for memory kit counters because they can stop Nijika from resolving her finisher combo by removing her from the field. It's recommended to have Nijika attack something significantly smaller than her in order to avoid the threat of a counter, and also potentially open up side attack opportunities for precise damage. And that's all for this installment of TD++. It was a bit different than the method we usually go with, but we hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless. Up next we'll have Simu's decklist of choice for Bocchi the Rock, followed by some gameplay between him and myself, so be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. Until next time, this has been Randall aka Shizukats on the Tressa's Collectibles channel. See ya!